Are condos in South Florida safe to live in? Are you willing to take a chance? Let's talk about it. On October 28th, just a little over 2 weeks ago, this building behind me was told to completely evacuate. All the residents were told, get out because your life is in danger. Hi there, I'm Palm Beach's Paul, your local realtor and guide to South Florida living, and welcome back to my channel. So a little over just 2 weeks ago, the residents of the Port Royale condominium, which is right behind me here at 6969 Collins Avenue in Surfside, Florida, were told to evacuate their building. I apologize, but this building is located in Miami. But nonetheless, we're about 2 miles south of Surfside, where tragically, a little over a year and a half ago, 98 people lost their lives in the collapse of the Champlain Towers building. So this building here is going through its 50-year recertification. And at about 4 p.m. on Thursday, I would have guessed on the October 28th, the city of Miami was going to post an unsafe structure. At 5 p.m., the condo board notified all the residents that they had to be out of the building by 7 p.m. that day. That's it. That's all the notice they got. 2 hours, pack your stuff, get out. The building is not safe. So what I'm going to do today is talk to you a little bit about what's been going on here since the tragic condo collapse of Champlain Towers and what the state of Florida has done to make it safer for you, potential buyers of condominiums here down in Florida. And then we'll talk about some things that you as a buyer should look for when you're out trying to buy a condo. So let's get started. So a lot of these buildings were built over, back in the 50s and the 60s. They're pretty old. So, and up until the Champlain Towers collapse, it was like 40 years before the buildings in Miami had to get recertified. But I don't think those rules applied to condo buildings north, like in where I live in Palm Beach County. So as you can see back here, this is an older condo building right behind me. And well, this is what I'm talking about. You can see on the wall over here where that, these buildings are just sitting out here in the elements for years. The wind, the rain, the salt air, the sand. And after a while, it does a number on these buildings. And so these condo buildings are responsible to maintain those for people's safety. And that's kind of what obviously happened with Champlain Towers. Although no one has clearly came out and said it was their fault, and they've already had a $1 billion settlement with the lawsuit that was going on in that building, we really haven't gotten a definitive answer of what caused that one to collapse. Now, as you can see, these condos aren't very far from the ocean at all. I mean, there's the beach right there. So there's the ocean, the salt air, the sand, and then there's the condo building right there. So you can see how over time, these buildings just get pounded with sand and salt, and it starts to wear on the structure. So that's why now they've got new laws in place, thanks to the state of Florida and the governor and everyone. They got together and they have some new laws in place, and we'll talk about those. You can't blame people for wanting to buy a condo here. I mean, it's beautiful. We're right down here. There's places to walk to. There's restaurants, there's shops. There's the beautiful beach right there. It's been that way, and it's been an attraction for people for, forever. So ever since they were, coming here to stay in Miami and South Florida. But unfortunately, people got complacent, and, things do need to be taken care of and repaired, and those repairs cost money. And when you have a board and you have owners and people can't see eye to eye, and the board comes to you and says, hey, we need to make these repairs, and a lot of the condo owners start complaining and saying, well, no, we don't want to spend that much money, then you have a problem. But as I said, the new law that they have now is going to change all that. The bill is called State Bill 4D, and it's designed to ensure that another Surfside tragedy never occurs. So any residential complex 30 years or older must be inspected for structural integrity, and every 10 years thereafter. If the structure is within 3 miles of the coast, which obviously these buildings are, then the inspection must be done once it reaches 25 years of age and every 10 years thereafter. So they put this bill into place to stop, these condo buildings from not addressing issues. Now, the condo associations or the co-ops must also identify quite a few of these issues that may come up. So there's a whole list of items here, but in short, They have to identify any buildings 3-story or higher in a report to the State Division of Condominiums. They have to develop a reserve study to determine how much money needs to be put aside to address building integrity issues related to walls, floors, windows, plumbing, and electrical systems. They have to create a special reserve fund to pay for those repairs, fully fund the reserve fund, and use the reserve funds for structural repairs. They can't just use it to say, let's make the pool look nicer, okay? Also, distribute inspection reports to each of the owners, the tenants, and prospective buyers. That's what's important for you guys. If you're looking at buying a condo here in South Florida, there's things that you're going to want to get as far as reports and documents, all the condo docs, especially if they're doing any kind of repairs on that condo building. You're going to want to get that report before you decide to move forward with buying it. So I was just talking to a guy that was here, he's been doing some work here since January, right across. You can see, there's the condo right there, and they're back here doing some work. So he said, from what he heard, it was a main structural beam that they needed to fix. Now this only happened, like I said, 2 weeks ago maybe, or a week ago, and they're already telling the people that they can safely move back into the building. No way, man. And not after seeing what happened, I wouldn't feel comfortable at all. But I'm not an engineer, so I'm gonna say on film, I don't know. Maybe it is. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a structural engineer, I'm not an inspector. So, but I would still be pretty nervous. So, and then he was also saying, I guess, again, this is just from some guy talking to me on the street, but that they had assessments like $60,000 about a year or two ago to do some painting and do the railing work and stuff like that. Whether they did that or not, I think some people just decided to sell and get out, which is, again, what we're going to talk about today. If you're looking to buy a condo, you want to know, are there assessments? Are there any major assessments coming up? Because not only does a condo have to have reserves if you're financing, okay? If you're paying cash, it's different, but you should always want to know. So one of the things you really want to make sure when you're buying a condo is, do they have reserve money? And the reserves are for things like the pool and security gate and the fitness center. You know, they should have money to take care of normal upkeep, okay? And if you're financing a condo, you usually want to make sure that they have at least 10% in reserves of whatever their financial budget is. But if they find something, you know, structurally wrong with the building, that's a whole different ball game, and they definitely need to have the money set aside for that. And then usually the only way they get that money is by putting a big assessment on all the homeowners. And that's where condos run into problems, because if they get, say, an assessment for $1 million and they assess every building owner or condo owner a certain amount of money, some of them are going to get ticked off and they don't want to pay it, and they fight it. And if they can't get everyone on board, then the repairs don't get made, and then you have these buildings in the condition that they're in. All right, so I hopped in the car. We're, like I said, at 6969 Collins Avenue, and we want to go up a little bit to the 8900 block because that's where the Champlain Towers used to be, and we're going to stop by up there. I'm also going to look for a memorial. So one of the things that the victims and the family members are dealing with the new developer who paid $120 million for the site is that they want a memorial. And they want the memorial, from my understanding, on the site. But the developers haven't approved that yet. Now, there's a temporary memorial that the mayor and I guess the city did for them, but they want it to actually be on the grounds of the building. And I guess I would assume the developers don't want that, because then it's like, you know, who wants to buy in a condo building if they're always reminded that it collapsed? It's a really, I mean, you know, you could sort of see it from both sides, but it's tragic, and, you know, I can't imagine what it's like for the families who lost someone in there. But, and, you know, they did have a big settlement of like $1 billion go out to the family members and the people who lost their lives, and then there's those who just, you know, who fortunately didn't die, but they lost their condo. And they just recently, I guess, settled that here in September. But yeah, so anyway, I'm going to drive up here a little bit and we'll see if we can find the memorial that the temporary one they have. And then I'm sure I'm not going to be able to get close to the condo building, right? It's a construction site and all that, but we'll head up that way. So right here is where Champlain Towers once stood and where 98 people lost their lives. And as you can see, they have this sort of memorial right behind me with the names of all the victims. I've never stood close to something like this. And when I walked up while making the video, it just kind of hit. I was never in New York. I never saw the World Trade Towers, so I can't imagine. But when you walk up and see something like this, it does so you feel something about it. How can you not? 98 innocent people were one night sleeping in their condo with a beautiful ocean view. It's really pretty down here, and minutes later they're gone. Now as I walk by the building, there's this other condo building right here. And you can only imagine the horror that those people must have felt seeing that happen. I mean, being that close to it. And this building back here too, one over my shoulder. So, just a really tragic event. And this is the first time I've been down here since the event happened. And that was, like I said, almost 2 years ago. But I wanted to come down here and talk about it because as a realtor, and having customers who want to buy condos, it's important with these changes that you know how to protect yourself. Now, I'm no lawyer. Again, I'm not a inspector, any of that stuff. I just know that if you're buying a condo in the old days, there were certain things that you did. Look at all your documents and everything. But now, I think it's more important than ever, especially after everything that's happened here. But you've seen the cost of what living right next to the ocean has cost people, mainly their lives, with this building collapsing, but also with the hurricane and what happened over in Fort Myers and the west coast of Florida. Everybody wants to live by the ocean and they want that beautiful view and they want to be able to walk to the beach, but it does come at a cost. Unfortunately, it came at the ultimate cost, people's lives. But as I've said in this video, it comes at a cost financially to you if you're going to buy a condo, because the wear and tear that's going to be constant, nonstop, 24/7, 365 days a year on your building. So let's talk about some of these documents that you should be getting when you're buying a condo, whether it's cash or financing. So when you buy a condo, you're going to put your offer in, at least here in the state of Florida. Okay, I'm talking about Florida real estate, nowhere else. And you do your contract and it gets accepted. And one of the documents that you put on that contract is called a condominium rider. It's a document that talks about your right to have all the documents that are available from that condo association. Okay, so like their rules and regulations, their application, their covenants, all the legal documents that they have when they're incorporated, their bylaws, all of those documents. But something else that you're going to want is a condo questionnaire, especially if you're financing. And that condo questionnaire is important because your lender is going to want to know, is the building financially stable and can you actually get a loan that would pay for the condo, and is the building worth the risk to the lender? And what I mean is, like I said earlier, if they have money in reserves, right? So they have an operating budget, which is the money they collect from all the HOA fees and assessments, and then they're supposed to have so much of that money in reserves, 10%. Now, if you're putting more than 30% down, you can get some of that waived by a lender. It makes it a little bit easier, and a lot of people do. A lot of people pay cash down here for condos. But if you're trying to buy a condo with only 5% down, which is nearly impossible, but I have gotten it done for a few buyers, then you're gonna have to have this condo questionnaire, and it's gonna have to have all these questions answered, and then it has to go to the lender. It's not free. So that's one of the main documents that you're gonna need. But when you're getting all those documents, that condo rider is what gives you the right to ask for all those documents. And on the Florida contract and the Florida rider, it gives you 3 days to review those documents from when the listing agent delivered them to you. But that document's gonna have things like, were there any pending lawsuits with the condo association? Maybe they had a lawsuit, maybe they had maybe they did work on the pool and they didn't pay the contractor and the contractor's suing them and it's ongoing litigation, and that could affect you as a potential homeowner. Do they have any assessments? Are there any assessments pending or coming up? Now, another thing you can ask for when you're getting all these documents are the minutes of their last meeting. Why? Because you want to see if they've spoken about possibly having an assessment. Maybe there's nothing on the books now, but maybe they're talking about one in 6 months. Maybe they're voting on it. And you want to know if those minutes are talking about a possible major assessment that could be coming up, which could greatly affect you. So it's a real important document, and it's something you'll work with your agent. You know, you'll make sure that you have it and you go through it. And it also talks about things like the parking space, and if there is a parking space or a parking garage and stuff like that. And it also even says if there are assessments, who pays them? Does the seller pay the assessments up to the day of closing and you take over after the closing? Does the seller pay for the assessments up front? You know, so, and again, assessments can also be negotiated. You know, maybe the seller will give, if you have to pay this assessment, maybe the seller gives you a lower price on the condo just to get out of it. I'm just throwing stuff out there. Again, there's a lot of different scenarios that could happen. So you just want to make sure that you get your documents and you look at them carefully during your due diligence time, during that inspection period that you have, and make sure you agree with everything, because it's not just something like this, right? Something tragic that happens. There's just rules in general. They may only allow 1 pet, maybe 2 pets, maybe only up to 20 pounds. And you have a 25-pound dog because you like to feed it lots of treat, like we do our dog. So, I'm kidding, she's on a diet. But, you just want to make sure that you review these documents. It's really important, because once you go past your inspection period, you've kind of said, I accept all the rules. And listen, some condos have some real crazy rules, trust me. I just dealt with that with one of my buyers. So, but he went through and kept the condo. So make sure you look at the documentation, read everything, make sure you understand what the rules are for that building, because it's really important. And as I said, with the collapse of Surfside, it's even more important now to know whether they have any structural issues, and they've been told that they have to make major repairs to the condo. By the way, if any of the survivors or family members of the victims of this tragic accident do see this video, my sincerest condolences to you and your families. Most of my videos are always uplifting and happy about what life is like living in South Florida, but as a licensed real estate agent, it's my obligation to tell you all the facts about living here, and living in a condo is one of those facts. They come with a lot of maintenance, and the older ones could become a problem. And I wouldn't be doing my job. I'm not trying to talk you out of buying one. I'm just trying to educate people to be smart about buying one and think a little more than just about the view and the price. So obviously there's other factors that you really need to consider now. All right, so inspections, let's talk about that. This is important. When you're buying a condo, you're gonna get a home inspection or a condo inspection. But that inspector is only inspecting the unit that you're buying. He's not inspecting the building, okay? He's not an engineer, structural engineer. He is a general inspector, and he's gonna check out the appliances. He may go up on the roof and check the AC if it's up there. He's gonna check the plumbing and stuff like that. But he isn't going to, do an inspection of the building and the foundation and the rebar and all that. So it's real important that you know that. I think some people might be confused, and they think that I got my condo inspected and then I bought it, and then we found out that the rebar had to be replaced. That isn't what a home inspector does. I don't get down to Miami nearly enough. I love the architecture down here. These old homes are so cool. That one right there, it needs work, but it's just kind of neat to see. It definitely has that old Florida feel down here. So there are a lot of newer condo buildings. Like there's some right here next to me on Collins, like Rimini Beach, right there behind me. And then the Mirage back there. I mean, I don't think they're brand new, obviously, but they don't look as old as some of the other ones. So, a lot of these condos are gonna be in better shape, but they're also gonna be more expensive. So keep in mind, when you're buying an older condo building, and it might need the extra work, but it might be a little less expensive, you just kind of weigh everything out and see what's best for you. So is condo living for you? Well, if it is, it's still a good buy, because you have places like this right down here in Miami and up in Palm Beach County that are great condos. They're perfectly safe to live in, and they're right by the beach. So I would just say, you got to do your homework and be safe about what you're looking at. Use some common sense, ask a lot of questions, ask for proof, ask for documentation, and you should be fine. And ultimately, you have that right to inspect and get all that documentation and get out, as long as you have an inspection time. Don't waive your inspection, and you should be okay. But it's really, for some people they love condo living, and for others they absolutely hate it. Only you can make that decision. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to click the links at the end, and as always, when you're in the Palm Beaches, get out and enjoy paradise. I'll talk to you real soon.